Hello everyone, this is Movie RXP, and today I'm going to tell you about the movie Pet. I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing it for you. Seth is a shy man who works for the city's animal control department. His job is to clean the kennels and feed the dogs. One day, while riding a bus, he meets Holly, a girl he used to go to school with. She now works as a waitress, spends her free time writing stories in her journal, and clearly isn't interested in getting to know Seth. If you're not busy, would you like to grab a coffee sometime? That night, Seth searches for Holly online. The next morning, he asks Nate, the security guard at his workplace, for advice on how to approach a woman. Nate tells him to be more confident. Later that evening, Seth checks Holly's social media profiles to learn more about her interests and personal life. The next day, he visits the restaurant where she works. He awkwardly compliments her hairstyle. "You have beautiful hair. It wasn't like that on the bus." Then he asks her out on a date. After Holly turns him down, Seth follows her down the street and secretly learns where she lives. Back at home, Holly is greeted by her friend Claire. She also receives a phone call from her ex-boyfriend, Eric, who cheated on her and is now trying to win her back. The next day, someone sends Holly a luxurious bouquet of roses. Believing the flowers came from Eric, she goes to the bar where he works, but he has no idea what she's talking about. Seth, however, knows exactly where the flowers came from because he sent them himself. He shows up at the bar and asks Holly whether she liked his bouquet. Then he once again insists that they should start dating. Furious, Holly hits him with her purse. At her request, Eric beats Seth up as well. During the struggle, Holly accidentally drops her journal, and Seth secretly takes it home. Over the next few days, he spends hours reading every page. When he finishes the journal, he discovers an abandoned wing of the animal shelter with a basement. There, he begins building a large steel cage. At work, Seth secretly steals anesthetic drugs and even tests them on himself to make sure they're safe. After confirming that the sedative works, he sneaks into Holly's house, puts her to sleep, and kidnaps her. He hides her inside a large box and easily carries it past Nate, who has no idea what's inside. Seth brings the box into the basement. When Holly wakes up, she finds herself locked inside the steel cage. Seth visits Holly again and brings her some food. When she curses at him and tells him to leave, he takes the food away and calmly explains that she is here for her own good. The following day, Holly finally accepts the meal he brings. As soon as Seth leaves, she begins talking to Claire, telling her friend about the terrible situation she is in. "He's going to kill you in here. You know that, right?" The next time Seth comes to the basement, he tells Holly that every person has two sides, the one everyone sees and the one hidden deep inside. He believes that by keeping her here, he can save her. Eventually, Seth decides to reveal everything. He shows Holly the journal he found and starts reading aloud some of his favorite passages. Then he casually asks how Claire is doing, the same Claire Holly talks to every day whenever Seth isn't around. To Holly's surprise, Seth suddenly begins speaking as if he were both Holly and Claire. Then he reveals the shocking truth. Claire isn't actually there. In fact, she hasn't been alive for a long time. Years ago, Claire really was Holly's best friend. But one day Holly discovered that Claire had slept with her boyfriend. Enraged, Holly deliberately caused a car crash. During the accident, she killed Claire with a piece of broken glass. Ever since that day, Holly has continued killing people and writing about each murder in her journal. After reading those entries, Seth wasn't sure whether they were just fictional stories, so he secretly followed Holly for several nights. Eventually, he realized the murders were real. That's why he kidnapped her. He believes he is protecting innocent people from a serial killer while also trying to cure her psychological disorder. The next day, Seth suggests that after Claire's murder went unsolved, Holly kept killing because she secretly wanted to be caught by the police. Holly simply smiles. She tells him that she never wanted to be caught. She killed people for one simple reason, because she had the chance. Then she suddenly begins smashing her head against the bars of the cage. She threatens Seth, saying that if he doesn't let her go, he'll find her dead the next morning. The next day, Nate begins to notice Seth's strange behavior. When Seth leaves the basement to get more supplies, Nate decides to look around. He walks downstairs and is shocked to find Holly locked inside a steel cage. Nate immediately reaches for his phone to call the police, but Holly stops him. Instead, she begs him to unlock the cage. In reality, she is only trying to buy time until Seth returns. When Seth comes back, Holly quietly says, Love requires sacrifice. Without hesitation, Seth attacks Nate. The two men struggle violently. Eventually, Seth grabs a large concrete block and repeatedly smashes it into Nate's head until the guard dies. Seth breaks down in tears and starts panicking. Holly, however, remains completely calm. She tells him to pull himself together and get rid of the body. Seth cuts off Nate's fingers, removes his teeth, and scatters them into a lake. He feeds pieces of the body to the dogs at the shelter. The remaining bones are burned inside the animal crematorium. To avoid raising suspicion, Seth calls his boss and says that Nate had to leave unexpectedly, so he is covering his shift. The following day, while Seth is desperately cleaning the blood from the basement floor, Holly starts talking to him. She tells him that he is no different from her. According to Holly, Seth is also a murderer. She says he enjoys having power over other people. That's why he locked her inside the cage. She believes they are exactly alike. Then Holly tries to seduce him. But Seth refuses. Feeling rejected, Holly becomes angry. She stops talking to him completely and refuses to eat the food he brings. Meanwhile, a detective investigating Nate's disappearance arrives at the shelter and asks Seth a few questions. During the conversation, the detective quickly realizes that Seth is acting nervous and hiding something. Although he has no proof, he begins to suspect that Seth is somehow connected to Nate's disappearance. For the next several days, Holly refuses to speak to Seth. She also refuses to eat anything he brings her. Finally, she breaks the silence. She tells Seth that if he truly loves her, he has to prove it. She asks him to cut off one of his fingers and give it to her as a gift. At first, Seth is horrified by the request. He refuses. But Holly explains that she has spent her entire life searching for someone just like herself. Now she believes she has finally found that person. She tells Seth that if he isn't willing to make such a sacrifice, then she was nothing more than a pet to him. After thinking about it for a while, he returns to the basement, determined to prove his love. Without hesitation, he cuts off one of his own fingers. As he screams in pain, Holly quickly grabs the knife. Holding it to her own throat, she threatens to kill herself unless Seth unlocks the cage. Unable to risk losing her, Seth opens the door. The moment Holly steps out, she looks him in the eyes. "Now I believe your feelings are real," she says. "And I love you too." For a brief moment, Seth believes everything has worked out. But a second later, Holly suddenly slashes his throat with the knife. Seth collapses to the floor, bleeding heavily. Sometime later, Holly gets back together with Eric. She also becomes a successful writer. The stories from her journal are published as fiction by a major publisher, and readers believe they are nothing more than made-up tales. Eric, however, hasn't changed. He continues cheating on Holly just as he did before. One day, Holly discovers his affair by checking his phone. Instead of killing him, she remains surprisingly calm. She drives to an abandoned warehouse. Inside, hidden from the outside world, Seth is still alive. He is trapped inside a cage, badly injured and horribly mutilated. Holly thanks him. She tells Seth that because of his love and devotion, she no longer needs to murder other people. Whenever her violent urges return, she takes them out on him instead. And that's all for today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like if you'd like to see more movie recaps like this.